Well, it's really interesting because she didn't really engage in a way that I would have suspected. I would have suspected that for Nikki Haley, who has in many ways played both sides, being both a Trump supporter as well as a Trump rejecter in many ways, she didn't really address Donald Trump at all. And she just made it about herself. She also did something what I found really interesting was sort of play on her electability. So she highlighted the fact that Republicans have lost 7 of the last 8 popular votes for president. And that's something that you don't really hear very often in someone's sort of election kickoff video, talking about I'm electable. And I found that sort of unique, but it is also unique for someone to switch so many sides as she has regarding Donald Trump.
Yeah. It was also interesting how she played the female card. It was an unusual way, talking about being in high heels and talking about her heritage. Not necessarily something that's going to appeal to a Republican side in America that is incredibly divided and incredibly combative.
Yeah, right now the Republican Party as a whole is going through a bit of an identity crisis. I mean, when you talk about mainstream Republicans after, 2022, especially after 2016, it's hard to really define who that is anymore. It's not Mitch McConnell anymore, the Senate minority leader, and it's not Donald Trump in many ways. You just have to look at the polling and you can see right now it's a party very divided. And I think Nikki Haley is trying to take advantage of that as best as she can, and seeing that there's potentially an opportunity for someone who has, in many ways, like I said, played both sides, to sort of cut through the middle and gain a bit of the Trump supporters as well as a bit of the never Trumpers, and try to sail through to get the nomination.
Yeah. It could be a crowded field. We know that the former Vice President Mike Pence is likely to declare. There's also Ron DeSantis, who's proving highly popular among Republican voters. Who does that favour if there is a wide field?
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of talk about right now this being a repeat of 2016, when there were so many Republican nominees that it's actually hard to remember. It was over a dozen in the first debate or so. And I think a lot of people thought that favored Donald Trump because he was this unknown political figure, but a well-known and very recognized sort of popular figure. And so he took advantage of the sort of disarray and the chaos of all those different candidates, and he commanded the stage on all the debates, and he sailed to victory. I think in this instance, though, it's a bit different because Donald Trump is not only a well-known and popular and popularly known person, but he's also a well-known politician at this point. We know who he is, we know what he stands for, and his election thus far, his sort of campaign rhetoric is really not all that different than what it has been for many years at this point. So I think some people may say this favors Donald Trump again, but I don't think it does. He's sort of a sort of solidified character at this point. A lot of people have fixed ideas of politicians, and they don't change too much. I think for the most part, people have a fixed idea of Donald Trump.
Yeah, nothing much is going to change. We know what he stands for. It is interesting to see that there have been 2 sort of libertarian groups, big Republican money raisers that are looking to fund an alternative to Trump. Do you think Nikki Haley could provide that contrast? Is she somebody that you think these groups might get behind and really finance?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it seems like the money issue is sort of emblematic of the elite versus the sort of commonplace and the popular party, or the rest of the party, I should say, the grassroots. So you could see that money in many ways was not an issue for Donald Trump in 2016. You could look at all the major funds backing the other candidates and how many of the conventional or the libertarian type Republicans were looking for anyone but Trump, even Ted Cruz. And it didn't matter, because at the end of the day, in this democratic system, in the Republican primaries, the votes are what Donald Trump got. And he energized that base. He energized the grassroots in a way that none of the other very wealthy or candidates supported by very wealthy backers could do. And that was just get those votes. And so you could look at even Tim Scott, who, similar to Nikki Haley, is also from South Carolina, and he has unbelievable support in terms of financial backing. but he doesn't have the name recognition. It really matters about who gets the votes. It seems almost naive to say that, but money can only carry you so far. You need to actually get the votes.
And you've got to have that kind of charisma that Trump had in spades, despite sometimes his controversial opinions in the lead up to when he was elected the first time. Tell me, Jared, what have you made of the balloon saga between the US and China? Do you think the White House is providing enough information, and could it cause a bit of a strain on relations?
Yeah, in so many ways, the sort of view of China in the U.S. has been the one area of bipartisan consensus for many years now, where it seemed like there was almost a race to see who could be more hawkish on China. And I think Republicans, many of them, saw this balloon saga as an opportunity to sort of get a wedge in there and to get more support from mainstream Americans for trying to make Joe Biden look weak. I don't know if they succeeded on that front, but I do know you can only look at the way that the White House has gone out of its way to take down 4 other balloons and probably many more to see that they've changed their calculus, both in terms of security, because there is a proven instance of a Chinese balloon going over American territory, as well as the politics, in seeing the danger of letting of the political ramifications of letting that balloon go over the across the U.S. And so that's why they seemingly were willing to take down balloons that they didn't even know what they were, if not balloons or objects or entities. And right now, as much as there's bipartisan consensus that that you want to be more hawkish on China in Congress, there also seemed to be a little bit of bipartisan consensus that they were frustrated with the Biden administration, that they weren't sharing enough about what it was. Just in the past 2 days or so, they've done a bit more of sort of behind closed doors briefings. And I think some of the senators and members of Congress who have gotten those briefings seem somewhat satisfied. But still, it really shows you how sensitive these issues are. And some events as seemingly innocuous as a balloon could change the calculus.
Yeah, really interesting. Fun times we live in. Jared, good to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you.